2x minus 3 equals y. And you could rewrite that y equals 2x minus 3, but it doesn't matter. So there it is. Okay, number 18. What do you guys think? C. You think it's C? Yeah. Everybody does? Yeah. 2, 1, I can see that on that graph right here. Right here at 2, 1, and then does it have the right slope? Down 1 over 4? Yeah. Okay, so we all agree it's choice C. Okay, so that was our warm-up. I want you guys to turn to the next page, which is where the notes are. Okay, and I just want to go over this little bit about snack mix. I want you to think about it. What? An athlete. Oh. It's in your packet.
Oh, now it's...
Okay. So this athlete wants to make a snack mix of peanuts and cashews that will contain a certain amount of protein. Cashews have 4 grams of protein per ounce and peanuts have 7 grams of protein per ounce. How many grams of protein will the athlete's mix contain, and what do the points 7, 0, and 0, 4 represent? So take a look at that graph and think about it for a second. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to think about it, and then I'm going to ask someone to share what they think. 7, 0, and 0, 4 represent. How about if we start with 7, 0? What's that mean? Griffin? 7 is what? Let's look at the graph again.
Is the graph backwards?
Ounces of cashews. So that would be 7. And what does the 0 mean when I say 7, 0? What does the 0 mean?
It's on the x-axis.
It's on the x-axis.
Is the graph backwards?
No, I don't think so.
It says cashews is 4 and peanuts is 7. The graph is...
That's the ounces of, it's like how much you have.
Yeah.
And 4, 0, 0, 4 is what?
Ounces of protein.
Ounces of protein. And what intercept is the y-intercept? What's the coordinates of the y-intercept? 0, 4. And what's the coordinates of the x-intercept? 7, 0. Okay, so I just wanted to get you a little bit familiar with that. Now, the next thing that you need to know about is the standard form of a linear equation. And you can see that here. AX plus BY equals C is the standard form. We've been using y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form, quite a bit. Okay, so this is just a different way to write the same thing. We use capital A, capital B, and capital C with lowercase x and y. Okay? Most often, when we are given standard form, it's because they want us to be able to find x and y intercepts. Okay? So I want to show you guys how to find the x and y intercepts of 3x plus 4y equals 24. Lauren?
Did we do the other question, how many grams of protein will the athlete mix contain?
We didn't. I skipped it. I just really wanted to make sure you guys saw the intercepts. Thank you, though. So I'm going to show you guys how to find the intercepts of 3x plus 4y equals 24. And what I want you to write down in your notes is to find, let's just say the x-intercept. You let y equal 0. Yeah, little ones. And solve for x. Okay, that's to find the x-intercept. Yes, we did talk about this on Friday, but it was kind of like informal, so I wanted to make sure that we hit it again. So in this problem, for me to do that, I'm going to say 3x plus 4y, which in this case I'm going to plug in 0 for y, is equal to 24. So I solve this for x now, and I get 3x. The 4 times 0 cancels out, equals 24. And I divide both sides by 3, and I get x equals 8. So that's my x-intercept. Then I do the opposite to find the y-intercept. So I would say to find the y-intercept, right, let x equal 0 and solve for y. And it's not going to be like you could forget about this, because whatever you do, if you messed it up and you said instead of you were trying to find the y-intercept, and instead of letting x equal 0, you let y equal 0, well, that meant that you would be solving for x. So you would know in the end that you made a mistake, and you would just do the opposite. So don't get freaked out if you don't remember exactly. So then I'm going to do that here. I'm going to say 3 times 0 for x plus 4y equals 24. And 3 times 0 is 0, so I just have 4y equal to 24. And divide both sides by 4, and I get y equals 6.
I got it right.
All right, Leah, tell me how to find the... Shh, guys, pay attention please up front. Leah, tell me how to find the x-intercept.
Okay, so it's your 5. Oh wait, you want to find out that? You want to find out x? You said.
Yep.
Okay, so you do 5x minus 6, and then you put 0 to parentheses equals 60.
Mm-hmm.
And then you cancel out the 6 and the 0, and then it's 5x equals 60. And then divide by 5. And then x equals 12.
Okay, good. Isabella, tell me how to find the y-intercept. Good. Are we allowed to get a negative intercept?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Are you allowed to get a fraction for an intercept?
No.
Who says no?
You're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
I didn't do that.
Guys, you can get a fraction for an intercept. It's, not a problem if you get a fraction for an intercept. So those are my 2 answers. Okay, the next thing that we need to do, Kyle, you ready?
Yes.
Next thing that we need to do is work on graphing when we're given standard form, because there's 2 ways to graph, more than that, but we have been dealing with y equals mx plus b, where we start with the b on the y-axis, and then we use the slope, up, down, left, right, to get to the next point.
Miss Smith? May I use yours quickly?
No. In this case, it's going to be easier to graph by using the intercepts. Okay, and I've listed out the steps for you in graphing with the intercepts in standard form.
So it's just the same.
So we're going to find the intercepts just like we just did, and then we're going to plot them on the appropriate axis, draw a line through them using a straight edge, and then we're going to label, just like we did last week. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'll do the y first, or I should say I'm going to find x first. And so x is equal to 2, right? And I can plot that right here. So that's the first intercept. The second one I can solve by letting x equal 0. So I'll do it here. So I get negative 2y equal to 2. And so y is equal to negative 1. And I can plot that on the y-axis. So my x-intercept goes on the x-axis, and my y-intercept goes on the y-axis. And then I'm going to use a straight edge. I don't really have one. I'm doing it on my iPad. But I'll use the side of this calculator instead. Hopefully that won't give me too much of a problem. So I'm going to draw, now I connect the 2 points. Oh, really off. That was my attempt at using a straight edge on the iPad.
Aww.
Not so good. It won't let me undo it either. But anyway, you would draw your line straight through your points. On your paper, it's going to be a lot easier. So just go ahead and make sure that yours match. We are going to use arrows
Can you give me one?
on the ends. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I've got this. I've got my arrows are on there. Like I said, Isabella wasn't sure. This should not have been above those 2 points. This should have been straight through it, but trying over here to do it on the iPad didn't work out that well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to label the line with the original equation that was given in the problem. So that's my first label. I also have to label the x and y axis, and I'm also going to label my scale. So I got my 3 labels down, got my straight edge, did that, and that's all you need to do. By finding my intercepts first.
It's not hard, it's just
Those two orange lines
Okay.
are bothering me.
So let me try that.
Wait, there's supposed to be some.
Well, I know. Don't watch then. I'm just being quiet because I'm trying to save some time.
I still sitting in the donut. Oh yeah, I think are you supposed to do this today?
Yeah, how are you supposed to?
Did you guys get
By twos.
today?
Oh.
Oh, I forgot you guys.
It's our class.
Okay, so when I get done finding the intercepts, I got x equals 10 and y equals 4. And I need to be able to graph it. I need to be able to graph it, but I don't have 10 boxes. So this kind of goes along with the scale. What's the deal with the scale? And I'm hearing a lot of people have said count by 2s instead of by 1s. So if I do, I'm just going to label my scale right away. I'm going to count these as 2, and I'm going to count these as 2. So no matter which way I'm going,
How do you write so neat on the iPad?
each box counts as 2 units. So I really need how many boxes for my x-intercept? 5 of them. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that'd be right here.
How long are we doing?
There's the first one. And then for y equals 4, I'm going to need how many boxes? 2.
Divide by 2?
Okay.
Oh, I did it wrong.
So make sure, I think that a big place where you can make mistakes is plotting the wrong coordinate on the wrong axis, so just be careful of that.
I put -4.
Huh?
Oh, I forgot the arrows.
I'm sorry, say it
It has to
again.
be the same.
I keep forgetting the arrows.
It does not have to be the same.
No,
As long as you label the scale, it does not have to be the same.
oh, it doesn't?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I thought it did.
No, but when we label the scale, that's what we're saying that it is.
So the y-axis could be 2 and the x could be 3.
It could be whatever, yeah.
Oh.
But her graph will look a little bit different than yours. But because I know what the scale is, I understand it. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry, Natalie.
She's very sorry, Natalie.
No, I'm not.
So I would have tried to use a straight edge again, but that didn't work out very well for me the last time.
Just draw it with your own. There you go.
How do you write so neat on my
I think it's cool how you're a lefty and your handwriting so neat.
Because she was born lefty, so you write.
Okay, so there is my graph. And yours should look pretty similar, especially if you use the 2x2 scale that I did. If you used a 2x1 scale, it's going to look a little bit different. But that's why we label the scale, so that whoever's reading our graph really understands what it all means.
I don't know.
Y equals negative 2x plus 3. I'm going to start with my b, which is 3 for this. B is equal to 3, and m is equal to negative 2 over 1, because m is the number in front of x, and I turned it into a fraction because I need a fraction when I use slope. So I'm going to start with 3 on the y-axis, and from 3, I'm going to be going down 2 into the right 1. And I could do it again, down 2 into the right 1. So I'm back to graphing the way that we were graphing last week. And I'll do the best that I can to draw that straight. And then for the second equation, in order for me to graph it, I'm going to get into y equals mx plus b form again. I could do intercepts for this one like we just did, where you let x equal 0, you let y equal 0, and find the intercepts, but I want to show you something specific about the slope. So I'm gonna use the y equals mx plus b form again here. So this is going to be,
Can you just move it around?
yeah, I'm gonna write it in y equals mx plus b form. You subtract 2x from both sides, and you get y equals negative 2x plus 7 is the equation when I solve for y. So it's in y equals mx plus b form. So for this, I get b equal to 7, and I get m equal to negative 2 over 1. Again, same slope, right?
Parallel.
Okay.
Oh my god, never mind.
So I'm going to start at my y-intercept, which is 7. Which is actually kind of good because that's exactly how many I have. And from there, I'm going to use the slope, and I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. Down 2 to the right 1.
How would you be? Never mind.
I was just going to say that.
Okay, and there's my 3 points. I would use a straight edge to connect them if I didn't have this difficulty. But I thought I heard somebody already say it. What is true about these two lines? They're parallel. What is true about the equations of the lines?
They're parallel.
Well,
Oh.
something. I heard somebody say something. They have the same slope. So that's really why I wanted you to graph them on the same pair of axes, and I wanted to use y equals mx plus b form, because the big idea behind this is that parallel lines have the same slope. So I need you guys to write that in here. Parallel lines have the same or equal slope.
I bet you perpendicular lines have the same intersection.
You think so?
Yes.
We'll see. So that's the big idea on parallels.
Yes, I do.
Okay, the next one, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to solve for y, and I'm actually going to do it by distributing the 3 in the first equation, because I want to get it into y equals mx plus b form again. So the first thing that I'm going to do over here is distribute 3, so I get y minus 4 equals 3x plus 6. And then my next step, I would add 4 to both sides to get y by itself. So I get y equals 3x plus 10.
If you have the equation up here, do you have to write it on the line?
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna have to change my scale again, right? Because I can't write that y-intercept so high. So that's it's gonna be a little bit tough. But my b is equal to 10, and my m is equal to 3. So I'm going, or 3 over 1, right? To make it in fraction form for the purpose of graphing. I will count by 2's is fine. Okay, and when I do, I'm going to go up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And there's my y-intercept. And from there, this is where it can be a little bit tricky. I'm going up 3. So I'm really only going to go up 1.5, right? Because each box is worth 2. So from here, if I go up 2, I really have to go up to halfway in the next one.
See, I don't like that.
And I'm going to go over 1. I'm not going to change my scale just because, Jocelyn, remember we said they could be different? I'm going to keep my scale as 1 on the x-axis just because it's easier, because that's my run, right?
Yeah, where's the dot? Is that in like the middle?
Yeah, it's going to be in the middle.
So you can't go up enough.
Well, you can't, so what else can you do?
No, because
You can go down this way to get your third point. But yeah, so I had to go from here, I went up 2, and then 3 is in the middle, right?
oh, there it is.
Because I counted by 2, so then
Oh,
I
I
went
get
over
what
by
you're
1.
saying. I get what you're
So
saying.
now
Okay.
I think you're starting to see too why it's important that we label the scale. So, and then like Jacob said, now I can't go up any further, but you can go backwards.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna go
I thought
down
you were doing
3.
the scale by 1, so I was like, why are you going up?
Yeah, I was confused.
And to the left 1. So down 3 and to the left 1.
So confusing.
And there's that one, so,
I like my hair today.
okay, there it is. And then for the last one, the second one, I'm going to, I'm going to solve that for y also, okay? So I'm going to subtract, let me change my color. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So I get 6y is equal to negative 2x plus 10.
Plus 10?
Yeah, because it was positive, right? And all I did was subtract 2x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 6. So really, everything gets divided by 6. So when I really solve it out, I get y equals negative 2 over 6x, which is what? Instead of negative 2 over 6, I want to reduce it. It's negative 1 over 3. And then 10 over 6 is 5 over 3. 5/3.
Let's say negative 2x, right? Plus 10.
Plus 10. Okay, so now I'm going to start with my b, which is 5/3. And I have to show you guys how to do that because that's a little tricky. B is 5/3. M is negative 1/3. Okay, and don't freak out. I'm going to show you guys how to graph the b. 5/3. 3 goes into 5 how many times? Once with 2 left over, right?
Yes.
So that's like 1 2/3.
Yeah.
Okay, what did I count by?
2.
By 2. So 1 2/3. Where would that be?
Right where the other.
It's going to be right about here. Do you see that? Because this is 1 2/3, right? 3 goes into 5 one time with 2 left over, 1 2/3. And I'm going to graph it right about here. It's not exact, but it's close. So it's an estimation. And then from there, I'm going to go down 1, which is a half a box, because we counted a box as 2. And I'm going to go to the right 3.
So from there you go down to the big older black line.
Yeah. So let me see. I'm right here at 2/3, and then I'm going to go down, or 1 2/3. I'm going to go down 1 which I'm still not, because right, that's bigger than 2. I still haven't gotten below the x-axis. And then I'm going to go to the right 3.
Oh, I guess it was wrong.
Caroline's gonna be perpendicular.
And my graph is not looking very good.
Look at that, they call us cats.
Does yours look better than mine? More perpendicular? Probably because of the scale. I think because of the scale, we have skewed it. This was a bad one to pick.
So what's the big idea?
The big idea is that these are supposed to be perpendicular, even though they're not. All right, you're going to have to take my word for it. These are supposed to be perpendicular, but because we messed with this scale, I've skewed it. Okay, it's gotten skewed.
Yeah, mine looks like a big X.
That's okay. Let's just say, let's take my word for it, they're perpendicular. And what I want you to do is I want us to look at these slopes. Okay, so that means that I want us to look at the slope of the pink line, which is right here, and the slope of the blue line. Okay, so those two slopes, how are those related? Knowing that the graphs should have been perpendicular, and it was my mistake for picking a one that didn't fit on the graph right, and it's like a skewed squishy.
They're flipped.
They're flipped, and what else? And one of them's negative. So really what's true about this is that parallel lines, or perpendicular lines, I'm sorry, perpendicular lines have opposite, reciprocal slopes. Okay, what that means
Does
is
the reciprocal mean the same as opposite?
opposite, when I say opposite, I'm talking about positive and negative.
Oh, okay.
Okay, one of them will be positive, the other one will be negative. And when I say reciprocal, I'm talking about flipping the fraction.
Yeah, alright, that just sounded redundant, I was like,
I'm so tired.
All right, and I'll change that problem for my next class so that it looks more perpendicular. Because that kind of stinks. All right, last question on this page. I want you to graph these on the same coordinate plane. This should be fast.
I'm already done.
Graph it quick. Y equals -7. Where does it go? X equals 2.
On the x-axis.
X equals 2 goes through the x-axis,
Why
right?
Why goes like this? X goes like this, right?
Yes. Y goes this way because it's got to go through the y-axis.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm going to do it quick here. Y equals -7. There's my y equals -7.
Oh, two different lines? What?
And x equals 2.
Yeah, I did one line too.
I'm not sure what you mean by one line.
Like you put 1 point on the y, -7's 1 point, and then 2's a different point. And then you point.
Oh, I see what you did. Like you thought those were intercepts?
Yes.
Okay, no, I meant 2 lines. Because I want us to think about these two. These are those special case ones, right?
Perpendicular.
And they're perpendicular. So 0 slope, which one of these, the green or the red, has the 0 slope?
Oh, the green.
No, the red.
The red has 0 slope and the green slope is undefined. So I want you guys to think about those as opposite reciprocals too. 0 slope and undefined slope are going to form perpendicular lines. So that's our reflection.
How are we gonna put in, wait, does that say in red?
0 slope and undefined.
Oh.
Okay. All right, I gotta do, I think, one more thing with you guys. And look at what we wrote. parallel lines have what kind of slope?
Equal.
Equal slope. Okay, so if I go back to my... Okay, so we are going to work on this. Write an equation in slope-intercept form, so that's y equals mx plus b, of the line that passes through the given point, which in this case is 2, -2, and is parallel to the graph of the given equation. So I'm going to give you guys a hint. The first thing that you have to do is figure out what your slope is going to be. Okay, so I'm going to look at the equation that's given. So that's y equals -x minus 2. I'm going to figure out what that slope is. So when I do, I get m equals, what's the slope? What's the slope of this equation? -1. And I know that you could put it over 1, but I'm not graphing, so I don't need to. But I know it has to be parallel to. The problem is calling for parallel. So the slope that's parallel to this one is going to be what?
Positive 1.
Let's go back.
Oh, no.
M equals -1. What's my slope parallel going to be?
-1.
M equals -1. Okay, and I have x equals 2 and y equals -2 because they gave me those coordinates of that point. All right, so I'll just write that out. X equals 2 and y equals -2. That's given right here. Okay. I'm going to set it up in y equals mx plus b because I'm going to solve for b, for my line. I'm going to use the -2 for my y. I'm going to use -1 for m, and I'm going to use 2 for x. So I mean, remember we did this already? We wrote equations of lines. We're just now applying the parallel part. Yeah, I'm trying to find b. And when I simplify, this is what I get. And then add 2. And you get b equals 0. So I have m, because I know my m is -1 because it's got to be parallel. And I have b. b is 0. So when I write my equation, it's y equals -1x plus 0, or just y equals -x. Okay? That's my solution.
What's our quiz?
I'm sorry, perpendicular.
92 over 1.
Okay, so I'm going to go to modeled example number 4. And in this case, I'm asking to write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the given point, -2, 3. And this time is perpendicular to the graph of the given equation. So I'm going perpendicular this time. The slope of my equation, the given equation, is m equals 1/2. Okay? What do I know about the perpendicular part?
Opposite reciprocals.
It's going to be opposite, so instead of positive, it's going to be negative. So I like to, this is how I note it when I'm doing my work. I write a little perpendicular mark. The slope of the perpendicular is going to be not positive, but it's going to be negative. And then I'm going to flip the fraction. So it's going to be 2 over 1. So that's what I'm going to use. When I'm graphing, the -2 over 1 is important. When I'm using this to write the equation of the line, I'm just going to use -2. Okay, because I don't need it in rise over run form. It'd be easier to use it as an integer. So what's my x? -2 from the problem right here from the point. And what's the y? Good. And so now I'm going to y equals mx plus b, all this stuff. And y is 3. M is -2. X is -2. Almost done. Now I got a negative times a negative, which is positive. And then I have to subtract 4 from both sides. And I get -1 equal to b after I subtract 4. I'm not done until I rewrite the equation. So I'm going to y equals mx plus b it one more time, but this time I'm going to only substitute in for m and for b. So it's y equals, what's my slope? -2 for the perpendicular, x minus 1. And that's my answer. So what I've done, guys, I've shown you guys how to do it when it's parallel, how to do it when it is perpendicular. I don't think that you'll have any problems doing most of the homework. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the homework.